When you're stopped by the police in the United States, it can be a stressful and intimidating experience. Many people panic, say the wrong things, or even make mistakes that can cost them legally. But if you know your rights, you can handle the situation calmly, confidently, and safely. In this video, we are going to talk in detail about what exactly your rights are when police stop you, what you should do, what you should avoid, and how U.S. law protects you in these situations. First, let's talk about the U.S. Constitution and how it protects you during a police stop. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. This means that police officers cannot simply search your car, your home, or your belongings without proper legal justification. The Fifth Amendment gives you the right to remain silent. You do not have to answer every question a police officer asks you, especially if it could incriminate you. And the Sixth Amendment guarantees your right to an attorney if you are arrested or taken into custody. These rights are not just for U.S. citizens. They apply to everyone in the United States, regardless of immigration status. Now let's move into real-life situations. The most common type of police stop is when you are driving and see flashing lights in your mirror. What should you do? First, remain calm and pull over to the side of the road safely. Turn off your engine, roll down your window, and place your hands on the steering wheel where the officer can see them. This shows that you are not a threat. When the officer approaches, he or she will usually ask for your driver's license, vehicle registration, and proof of insurance. You are legally required to provide these documents. However, beyond that, you do not need to answer additional questions. For example, if the officer asks, "Do you know why I stopped you?" or "Have you been drinking?" you are not required to respond. You can politely say, "I choose to remain silent." Remember, anything you say can be used against you in court. Another important point is consent to search. Many times officers will ask, "Do you mind if I search your car?" You have the right to say no. Without a warrant or without probable cause, the police cannot legally search your car. If they have a genuine reason, such as the smell of drugs or visible evidence of a crime, then they may proceed. But if not, your refusal is your constitutional right. Always say calmly and politely, "I do not consent to a search." Now let's talk about pedestrian stops. If you are walking down the street and a police officer approaches you, what are your rights? You have the right to ask, "Am I free to go?" If the officer says yes, simply walk away calmly. If the officer says no, you are being detained. During detention, you still have the right to remain silent and the right not to consent to a search of your bags or personal items. Police can pat you down only if they reasonably suspect that you are armed and dangerous. Even in that case, it is only a limited search for weapons, not a full search of your belongings. Another common situation is checkpoints or DUI stops. In the U.S., DUI checkpoints are legal in some states and illegal in others. At checkpoints, police can stop cars to check for impaired drivers. You still have the same rights. You must provide your license and registration, but you do not have to answer questions like, "Where are you coming from?" or "Have you had anything to drink tonight?" You may remain silent. However, refusing a breathalyzer test can have consequences, depending on your state. Some states have implied consent laws, which mean that by driving, you automatically agree to a breath or blood test if suspected of DUI. Refusal can lead to a license suspension even if you were not drunk. Knowing your state's specific law is important here. Let's also talk about what happens if the police stop you at your home. Police cannot enter your home without a warrant unless there is an emergency, such as chasing a suspect or responding to cries for help. An officer knocks on your door and asks to come in. You can say no. You can speak to them through the door or step outside, but you do not need to allow them inside without a warrant. If they do have a warrant, ask them to show it to you before they enter. Remember, warrants are specific. They should clearly state the place to be searched and what is being searched for. Now let's move to what happens if you are arrested. If a police officer tells you that you are under arrest, do not resist, even if you believe the arrest is unfair. Resisting can make things worse. Instead, clearly state, "I am exercising my right to remain silent, and I want to speak to a lawyer." From that point on, do not answer questions until your lawyer is present. Police may try to get you to talk, but you are not required to. Even casual conversation can be used against you. Always wait for your attorney. It's also important to understand that recording the police is legal in the United States as long as you are in a public space and not interfering with their duties. If you are stopped, you have the right to record the interaction on your phone. This has been upheld by multiple courts. However, always do it respectfully, without making sudden moves, and without obstructing the officer. Another right that often comes into play is the right to a public defender. If you cannot afford an attorney, the court must provide one for you in criminal cases. Do not hesitate to ask for a lawyer if you are being interrogated. Remember, the justice system is designed to give you legal representation whether or not you have money. Let's also discuss what mistakes people make during police stops. First, arguing with the officer. This rarely helps. Even if the officer is wrong, roadside arguments will not fix the situation. Save your defense for court. Second, admitting guilt without realizing it. Simple statements like, "I only had one beer," can be used as evidence against you. Third, consenting to searches because of fear. Always remember, calm refusal is your right. Fourth, running away or physically resisting. This can lead to additional charges and put you in danger. Now let's go over some real-world scenarios. Imagine you are stopped while driving and the officer says, "Your car smells like marijuana. Can I search it?" You should respond politely, "I do not consent to a search." If the officer insists and searches anyway, do not physically resist. Let them do what they are going to do. Later, in court, your lawyer can challenge the search as illegal. Another example, you are walking at night and the police stop you asking for ID. In most states, you are required to identify yourself if you are lawfully detained. Giving your name is enough. You do not have to answer other questions. Immigrants often worry about police stops. The truth is, immigration status does not erase constitutional rights. You still have the right to remain silent and the right to refuse consent to a search. You do not have to share your immigration papers with local police. Only federal immigration officers can require that. If you are asked, simply state, "I choose to remain silent." Let's also talk about what happens if police use force. The law says that force must be reasonable under the circumstances. If you feel that the police used excessive force, do not fight back at the scene. Instead, document everything afterward. Get medical attention, keep records, and contact a lawyer. Courts and complaints can handle the issue better than arguing on the spot. Finally, let's review the key points. When police stop you, stay calm, keep your hands visible, and be respectful. Provide required documents like license and registration. But remember, you do not have to answer other questions. You have the right to remain silent, the right to refuse consent to a search, the right to an attorney, and the right to record. Never argue, resist, or run. Exercise your rights politely, and let the legal system handle the rest. Knowing your rights is not about disrespecting police officers. It is about protecting yourself, avoiding mistakes, and making sure that justice is followed correctly. The more people understand their rights, the safer and fairer interactions with law enforcement will be.